Hey everybody, welcome to XSC Chat. I'm Serge.
I'm Rob.
I'm Gen Z.
I'm Gen X.
And today we are doing another music reaction. So we're gonna pull up the wheel of suggestions and we're gonna spin the wheel and whatever it lands on is today's reaction.
Hey buddy, check this out. Look at that wheel.
Look at that wheel.
Wow.
And it's always growing because we're getting tons of recommendations.
That's like a galaxy of songs now.
Yeah.
Wow.
A mini galaxy.
This is cool. All right.
Ready?
You're hitting the spin button?
Yep, I'm hitting the spin button.
All right.
All right, wheel, decide our destiny. Please be a good one. Let's see what it is.
Oh,
interesting.
Great.
We got a Sabaton song.
A Sabaton.
All right.
We like Sabaton.
Yeah, we like Sabaton.
We like a lot of these groups. Sabaton is
Get
pretty
to
cool.
dive into the history behind the song.
Yeah.
And it looks like our pizza just arrived. So we're going to go eat it real quick and then we're going to pull up this song.
We'll be back right after lunch.
All right. See you guys soon. See you soon. We'll be right back. All right, guys. So we brought up a video for The Final Solution by Sabaton. We're excited to jump into another one because we get to learn some more history. For this one, actually, me and Rob, we both have heard of The Final Solution, which was that proclamation by Hitler regarding Jews. And unfortunately, that, of course, led to the genocide. I don't know if genocide is a word, is it? I think
Genocide.
it was. Genocide, yeah.
Yeah.
It's genocide of many, many Jews who were exterminated in concentration camps. And the deaths were in the millions. It was
6.
Yeah.
6 million plus.
Yeah.
And that was only Jews.
Yeah.
There were others too, but yeah.
So before we jump into the video, of course, we're going to take a look down below for what blurb they included for the historic fact. So Kristallnacht, which I think in history class that was also known as the Night of the Long Knives.
Crystal. It's has to do with broken windows or broken glass.
I see. Yeah, it wrote also known as Night of the Broken Glass. Wasn't there another night which was the Night of the Long Knives?
I don't know.
Maybe I got that confused. So the Kristallnacht, Night of the Broken Glass. Oh yeah, this was different because I'm thinking of a different separate occurrence. Was a pogrom against Germany's Jewish communities. It targeted synagogues and prayer rooms, Jewish-owned shops, and Jewish neighborhoods. 90 Jews were killed. That's like one occurrence, but of course, much more ended up suffering as a result of the aftermath. After Effects. And also there's another event that I was thinking of from a history class, which was the Night of the Long Knives, which I believe was an event in which Hitler had lots of his political opponents like assassinated during the night. So it was known as the Night of the Long Knives. That was like a separate thing.
Okay.
So, ready to jump in?
Yes. So The Final Solution by Sabaton. A lot to comment on. Let's go ahead and just get into the music.
All right, let's hear how this sounds. Whoa, hold on. Do you see that? There's like some text. Specialized units called Einsatzgruppen, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, murdered about 2 million Jews, partisans, and others, often in mass shootings. I know there's the SS, which the Holocaust was a genocide in which Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany and his collaborators killed about 6 million Jews. You're correct, around 6 million, yeah. The Nazi German government established a network of concentration camps in 1933, then passed laws to exclude Jews from civil society in 1935. So even before World War II, there was already that anti-Jewish sentiment, especially after World War I believe. They were used as scapegoats.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
A lot of it was because with the high inflation and causing a lot of starvation or hunger and the disparity of the haves and have-nots, many of the Jews actually fared quite well compared to other communities because they were just a successful community in many respects in what they were doing with their businesses. And so they were looked upon with great disdain. But also because of the there's a lot of history here I won't even go into because people in the comments will just have a cow. So anyway,
if you get minor historical,
this just has a lot of sensitivity to it. So
I think also eugenics played a role, right? In a lot of the killings that they did, not only for Jews but also for other races such as like Slavs that they considered to be inferior to their own. Which of course was very sad.
What's interesting in the description is it used the term pogroms, and pogroms were actually from Russia, and they were started in that where a lot of the Russian troops from the Tsars would go into villages. The Jews tended to keep themselves, or they were segregated, but keep them to themselves. And so pogroms were horrible events where soldiers would go in and just burn down villages, torment. There was a horrible terrorist attack among them. And so then, to use a term here in Germany, it would be associated in the same way, but this was in an urban setting, which was very different than what was experienced in Russia.
Yeah, and I think there's some war films also depict that what you mentioned, which was the separation, where even before all the killings, Germany started to like separate them into their own separate communities, and they would have like stitched stars or like these
Star of David.
David to make it easier to identify them.
Yeah.
So it started really early.
Yeah. All right. Let's go.
All right. Kicked in. There's a Star of David, like you mentioned.
Right. Yeah.
Country in depression, nation in despair.
Germany after World War I.
One man seeking reasons everywhere.
Probably Hitler.
Growing hate and anger, the furious orders were precise. Who was to be blamed and pay the price?
Yeah.
Wicked propaganda, turning neighbors into foes.
Wow.
Soldiers of the Third Reich searching homes. And then the former friends are watching as they are round up one by one. Times of persecutions, yes, begun. Ever since it started,
See the instruments are building up.
Yeah. Build it up. Yeah.
and truth was denied. Sent away on trains, sent on a one-way trip to hell. Enter the gates, Auschwitz awaits.
Wow.
Where freedom burns, the final solution. Dreams fade away, and all hope turns to dust. When millions learn the curtain has fallen, lost to the world as they perish in flames.
Wow. What is so powerfully done. It's just an instrumental, just all the way they all kicked in, and it's like it built up to this moment, and it's like when freedom burns and the final solution. I love their word choice. It is really powerful in the way that they describe everything.
Yeah.
I found it really interesting how they're talking about like neighbors turning into foes. And their former friends that are watching as they're being rounded up one by one. So all of a sudden, all these people they just like turn their backs on the community that is ousted, right? So it's just really interesting. And then there's one lyric about Auschwitz awaits. Auschwitz was, of course, one of the most famous Nazi extermination camps, where many people perished. And they say enter the gates, right? And there's this famous gate right here, and that as you enter Auschwitz, and when you can actually go and visit Auschwitz today, I think.
Right.
You can actually visit it, and I don't know German, but I believe from what I read a while ago in a documentary, what I heard in a documentary a long time ago, is that it said like work will set you free, is what it says. Arbeit, I know, is the word for work, so I'm guessing fret is or frei is free.
Free, maybe.
So, and the idea was work will set you free. So it was kind of giving some people maybe some hope that maybe if I work hard enough, I'll survive. But in reality, everyone was being worked to death, and if you
literally
if you
worked to death,
yeah, exactly. And if you work hard enough for some time, you can like delay your death. But the problem is the way you're treated and you're in such harsh conditions, you would eventually be worn down to the point where no matter how hard you work, you wouldn't be able to carry on, and then you'd be killed, and then then someone else would take your place.
Yeah, there are always trains of people being fed into these camps. So it was a constant replacement of people. I think Auschwitz is mentioned here because it's the most well known. I think because it numerically had exterminated more people than any other camp. I know Dachau was the first one to open up in Bavaria, Germany, southern part of Germany, and it was in just outside of a small little town or city of Dachau, and people at that time didn't even know what it was. It had anyway. We can continue with this, but yeah, to your point that you mentioned, there's so much to say here, but about the words, I like how they sing it. Of course, they always have a really good sound here, right? In such a serious message, and yet they present it in a way where you can actually understand the words and the sound of the words, and even I would say the emphasis of the words go right into or with in a powerful way the music.
Yeah, and
the sound of the music.
And it feels so like dramatic in the way in its delivery. For me, like I got chills when it like there's that transition. It said when freedom burns, and then the final solution, and it showed like that one. It briefly showed the eagle pop up.
The German eagle.
Yeah, so I found it interesting. How it had like the symbol, and then they put. I like how they're taking the lyric video. They were very artistic with it. They're including the lyrics in different spots. Like here, Auschwitz awaits. Enter the gates. They put like on a sign, and then
they had other signs like that sort of on the side. Yeah.
So, ready to jump back in?
Yeah. Well done with how they produce this video too.
Showing the gates once again. Look, inside instead of the concentration camp, it shows graves.
All the head tombstones.
There was a nation in despair. One man finding reasons everywhere.
They changed the word.
Then there was rising hate and anger. The viewer's sword is still applied. Who was to be blamed and sent to die? Ever since it started on Kristallnacht
Hear the buildup?
38, when liberty died and truth was denied. Way on trains, sent on a one-way trip to hell. Enter the gates, Auschwitz awaits. When freedom burns, the final solution. Dreams fade away, and all hope turns to dust. When millions burn, the curtain has fallen, lost to the world. They perish in flames. When freedom burns, the final solution. Dreams fade away and all hope turns to dust. When millions burn, the curtain has fallen, lost through the world as they perish in flames.
Wow.
What a video.
Perish in flames. Yeah.
Yeah, and I found it's really chilling in its sound, but it's also the way, like I said, it has a really dramatic like feel to it in the way that all the music and the instruments, they all combine with the message, and they really push it forward that much more. I found it pretty interesting that at one moment in the song. Later, the lyrics that were towards the beginning got repeated towards the end, but the words were changed. Did you see that?
You noticed that?
Yeah. I noticed it because towards the beginning, there was, it said, I put it back on the screen. One man seeking reasons everywhere. It says here, right? And then later in the song, I believe it said he was finding reasons everywhere. So, see, one man seeking reasons everywhere,
Right.
and then one man finding reasons everywhere.
Yeah, good
And
catch.
that one man referring to Hitler, right? Hitler, he was, after coming out of World War One, a lot of like veterans were like very mistreated there on the streets. They basically became poor, and they also felt a lot of resentment because they felt a lot of them didn't know that their country was even losing until the war was over, and they're like, wait, we lost? We thought that things were going well, because there was lots of miscommunication. Things weren't being communicated to those out there.
Hidden through propaganda.
Yeah. And so he was seeking reasons everywhere, and he found who to blame. He found a community to like pin it on, and then everyone else happily did it because like the rest of the society is like, oh, let's put the blame on them, and then it's not on us, right? And I found that really interesting, how that whole dynamic, right? They basically just found a scapegoat. And then here it says growing hate and anger after that one lyric, and then here it changes to, let's see. Then there was rising hate and anger. So it's like these very subtle differences in the lyric, and the Fuhrer, and then it said before in the song the Fuhrer's orders were precise, and then here it says the Fuhrer's orders still apply. So it's a very subtle difference, but I like it because it reduces the repetition, and instead it makes it feel even more intense because it's saying this is still ongoing, and it shows like the subtle changes, just like in history. It slowly things start to change around you.
Yeah, and with these subtle differences, I think they're really also communicating the progression of time. In the beginning, here's how it was, and later, there's still this horrific stuff still occurring. As you read here, the Fuhrer's orders still apply. They're still going on. One man seeking reasons, right?
Yep.
So he had to find reasons to feed his hungry, literally hungry, but also hungry for a purpose for living, his hungry citizens, the Germans, with everything that was that they had to contend with after World War One when they lost. The victors really bestowed upon them a lot of, charged with them a lot of war reparations, and that crippled their economy. And it makes sense. I mean, they lost and they destroyed so much. It was horrific what the Germans did in World War One. Right, or the Axis powers as a whole, actually. So as a victor, you should pay us back for everything that we lost based on the stuff that you started. But it was so severe that.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because I heard from some historians, there's like different opinions on that. Some people believe it was justified. Some people felt that it was the sanctions and everything that happened to Germany, like all those pressures that were put on them, were too intense that it pushed them into like starting another war.
Yeah, I would contend it did. I certainly wouldn't justify it. Yeah, I mean, they should have had to pay for what they did. But it was an interesting thing that happened after World War II is that I think the victors learned that may not have been the best approach. Even if they deserved it, it may not have been the best approach to maintain peace. And so then the German miracle occurred in the 50s because things were applied differently after World War II than what had been applied after World War I. So back to the one man seeking reason. And then at the end, I think it reads one man finding reason.
Finding reasons, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I think there's a subtle difference there, but it's pretty significant. When you're seeking something, you're looking to fill a void. When you're finding stuff, it could be right there in front of you. So in other words, he was seeking, I'm going to take this interpretation, hatred for the Jews, and he stirred it up. And so during the war and later in the war, he didn't have to seek or find hatred for the Jewish people, among others as well. It was already there. All he had to do was just find it. Oh, you're there. Let's activate it. Let's stir it up.
Yeah.
Anyway, commentary on subtle differences in some of the lyrics of the song here.
Yeah, it's interesting. something else that I remember from history class was that because of propaganda and a lot of miscommunication, a lot of times when the war drew to an end, the people weren't even aware that their side was their side was the ones that was losing, because every side was trying to say that the war effort was going just fine.
Sure.
So when Germany lost, a lot of citizens and soldiers on the front lines, they were in disbelief, and they were like, "That's impossible," and they felt like it meant that there was a betrayal. So somebody had to be responsible. Someone on our side must have sold us out or something like that. They felt like it was impossible for Germany to lose. We were so powerful. How could we have lost the war? Someone is responsible. And so everyone was looking for a reason. Yeah. And then he was the one who found those reasons for them. He created a reason. Yeah. And there's this one documentary that explains it very well. It showed that like Hitler started in small like pubs and whatnot, where he would go on speeches, and he would drive people's anger. And what he would do, he was a very strong like speaker, orator. I don't know.
Orator,
yeah. And what he would do is he would like observe the audience, and he would come with like several points in his head that he wants to try and press on. And what he would do is he would go down the list of points in his head, and he would see how the audience reacts. So he would go out one point, and he would see the audience wouldn't really react that strongly. Then he would go down to his next point, and he sees that it would get into people's, like, it would dig into them, and then he's like, aha, and then he would drive that point home even further, and he would expand on it, and he would elaborate on it, and so he would find those things that would trigger people and would like press their buttons, and he would drive onto them even more, and that's how he became very influential and very he took a lot of control, and then of course the rest is history.
Right. Yeah.
Whew. What do you think of the song?
Overall, a really good song. You know, how do you say it's a good song over something so tragic and horrific? So, you know, I just say in terms of a couple things. Take out the instruments. Not the instruments. Take out the lyrics, and there's no singing, but you just hear the instruments. Great sound, really good sound.
Yep.
You know, great beat. Really good crescendos with the sounds. But what's amazing now, put the lyrics in, and again, how can you celebrate a song and call it a good song when it's about something this horrific? But again, musically and artistically, I really liked how they emphasized certain words and emphasize certain meanings by having that the music go with it, and they sang in a certain way to emphasize with the music and harmony. You know, their lyrics here. Not that the message is to be celebrated, but what should be celebrated is that Sabaton is keeping this memory alive, because it should never happen again.
Yeah, so, those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it, as a famous quote goes.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
I think it's a really powerful song in the way that they delivered it. I enjoyed the instrumentals, like you mentioned, but then the lyrics, they really carry that message home, and they come, and it really blends well with not only the instrumentals, but the way the lead singer is singing those lyrics. The way he's singing those words makes them much more impactful. Yeah. So I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, me too. Another really good one by Sabaton.
Yeah.
You have a pair of U.S. fans over here from. Wish we could fly across the pond and see you in concert.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be able to see them some more real soon in the Sabaton history reaction. So I'm guessing they have a history video for this, like they do for a lot of their songs. So we're going to go check that out next and learn some more details behind the history. Maybe learn some new things.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd imagine it's particularly with this message here in this part of history.
Yeah, this subject.
There's going to be a lot said by the historian.
Indy Nidell.
There we go. Yeah. All right. So I think you'll see us again next with a reaction with the Sabaton history on this particular song.
Yeah. So with that being said, we hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell icon to stay up to date on future videos. And with that being said, have a great rest of your day.
You'll see us soon.
All right, guys. Take care.
If you try, you just buy it.